Hello, everyone, and welcome to Weekly Manga Recap. It is September the 13th of 2023. That's right, it's Wednesday the 13th. The most unlucky day that you could possibly have. Friday the 13th? No, everyone loves Fridays.
That's cool.
Wednesday the 13th. That's when it's really unlucky. So,
Hump day? Yeah, no one wants this.
It's okay, guys. We're going to get you over that very unlucky hump with some manga talkie today. So
I only signed up for a manga talkie today. I don't know if I have it in me for a manga talkie. That's a lot to put on somebody.
That's multiplying it. That's like squaring it fully.
Yeah,
so
it's like exponentially manga and talkie. That's a lot, but I'm gonna give it my best shot. I'm gonna see how I can do. Before I do though, I have a quick shout out I want to give to a listener of the show who has sent a costume my way that I won't discuss right now. It's something that'll come up on the show. But Colin, aka Calensus, I always forget how to say the name, so Colin, feel free to correct me. Also sent me, along with it, a gif of Ingelhofer honey mustard. I believe this comes straight from Ingelhofer, which I do believe, of course, as we know, is part of Belgium, I'm going to say. So I am looking forward to eating this mustard. Thank you very much for the gift. It is very kind of you.
Yeah. The Hoffers of Ingalls shall be consumed mightily along with this costume. So.
Yeah. What else would Ingelhofer mean, Nick?
Well, I took Spanish in high school, so it's not on me to know that. That's
true.
On the people who took whatever language that is.
Engel, I believe, is Belgium for angles, and Hofer is, of course, something for lock. So I think this is actually Kurt Angle's ankle lock honey mustard. That's how.
I do wish it. Whatever language that is.
Too bad, Nick. Only I get to enjoy the sweet, sweet ankle lock tap out. You son of a bitch! I won the Olympics with a broken neck mustard.
The only thing that knowledge of Spanish gives me is knowing that everyone who tries to say luchadors' names and moves whenever they wrestle on American TV always gets everything wrong. They pronounce everything wrong. Hijo. It's not he-ho. Hijo. H's are silent in Spanish. It's not hard rules.
It's weird because you feel like they're so good at like correcting themselves in a couple other things. There's been like a big move recently to like pronounce Japanese wrestlers' names with like a much more fluid tongue. But yeah, the idea that Hyo would be still be uttered is baffling at times.
Hijo sounds it sounds like a pastry that you purchase.
Yeah, I've had a couple Hyos in my life. They're pretty good.
Yeah. You get it at a gas station, you're like, this is actually really good for something that I paid like $3 for 2 of. Because you got it at a gas station.
You gotta get it. I mean, where are you getting quality besides a gas station? I say living in Pennsylvania where gas station food is considered culture.
I from what I understand, in some places in the world, it actually is. So I envy you.
I wouldn't. I don't think Sheetz or Wawa. There's just a fight between which one is better. I don't think either of them have actually what I'd consider good food. You could just get a lot of garbage, customized food.
Wawas are kind of becoming a big thing in the area.
Oh my God, Nick! You're gonna have opinions on this argument soon.
Well, we don't have the other one, so
you're not getting the Sheets. That's
right. My opinion is just the default one, which is compared to every other gas station, Wawa's is just better.
Yeah.
In terms of the food, because the rest of them are just like, fuck it, you're here for gas. So.
I remember watching some food reviewer person who was like, I'm gonna get all of my meals from a gas station today, and it wasn't like Sheetz or Wawa. It was like some random ass like Turkey Hill or something like that. Some fucking regular old gas station. They're just getting burritos. I was like, I mean, I guess I suppose you would survive that day, but you would just feel like death. You know, like the way
Right.
the Super Size Me guy felt, but it was actually explained he was like a bad alcoholic at the time on top, and also stuffed himself to like fullness. Like that's how I would
Right.
actually feel. I think just eating nothing but gas station food all day.
Yeah. I have done it when I'm kind of desperate, but generally speaking, the only times I've ever gotten anything from a gas station have been like, I want a soda for the road because I'm gonna be driving for like 3 hours. So sure, I'll buy this strawberry Fanta.
Yeah, drinks are fine. I don't think there's any issue
There's
with
teal,
with
but
drinks. Yeah.
no.
But the idea of like grabbing a you know a taquito that's been sitting on a roller for God knows how many hours and just being like, that's sustenance. I'm like, shit, is Fallout happening? Because that would be a good meal there. But
Yeah, that hot dog roller operates on LIFO rules, so last in, first out. So, so some say the one at the top of the roller has been there since the dawn of time.
I say this thinking lovingly of my dearly departed brother who used to make a like active habit of going to gas stations to get burritos and then would complain about his bowels like 10 years later in life. And I was like, maybe it's because you ate fucking gas station burritos every day when you didn't have to. Times were not that tough, Mikey. I know they weren't.
Oh man. Guys, we do have some manga to talk about today. It's gonna be an odd lineup, though. We've got no One Piece, no My Hero, almost none of our like irregular series, and of course, Black Clover is also now one of those irregular series. And we're saying goodbye to one that's gotten the axe, and we're saying hello to a new one. So an odd lineup all around. And we're going to be starting, as we are going to be doing while My Hero's not got a chapter, with Undead Unluck. So
Yes. Let's talk about Undead Unluck. This is number 174 on Prince Charmant. I don't.
that's perfectly.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I realize now. Is that supposed to be pronounced like Prince Charming?
I took Spanish, not whatever language this
Hold
is.
on,
So.
we can solve this problem if I go into Google.
I believe it's un Prince Charmant.
Let's see.
And I apologize
No
for
one's.
my...
It's not saying anything.
Charmant.
Charmant. Nick Charmant. Prince Charmant. That just sounds like nonsense. Anyway, we open at Eichholt Hospital with Rip showing up, and he has this big monologue about how this hospital has renowned doctors and the best medical equipment. It is the best hospital in the country, and he hates that there is like a sad air that hangs in the hospital, this air of like sickness or death. He wants to get rid of it. He wants the hospital to be a good place. After all, he is going to heal and repair everyone and everything. So we see Rip being greeted by two young children in this hospital, and he's like rubbing them on the head. He's like, "Oh, look at how you're doing! Wow, your physical therapy must be going really well, buddy. Oh, hey, Gina, what's you want this panda bear shaped lollipop?" She's like, "Oh, wow, this is gonna be so cool!" And she runs away all excited, and a nurse comes up and is like, "Hey, I don't know if candy is exactly what you should be giving to the kids."
All right, Patch Adams. Let me...
there are actual medical things you should be doing. But he like corrects her. He's like, she hasn't been able to keep food down at night, right? Give her a shot of protein and calcium. And then he opens his lab coat and he has other lollipops with like the initials of other kid patients in there, and he's like, this one has this conditions, has been getting many nutrients, give it to the give this one to this one, and this one should help with this person's anxiety, and this one, and the nurse is just like, wait, did you make these? And Rip's lament is he's like, yes, but I wasn't able to make them very cute though.
It's very sweet.
Yeah. So he's like, all right, you know what? I have to go head over. It's like almost this time. I've got to get out of here. And he jumps out the window. Like he opens the window and jumps out it. And we cut over to Layla, Latla's sister and Rip's love interest, who's in the hospital. And she's reciting a prediction of like southwest, look in that direction, eat by 10 every day. If you want to do that, then on May 3rd at 10:05, you'll see your prince on a. And then Rip from outside the window shouts out, Layla, I've returned. How are you feeling? And he is literally riding on a fucking horse.
And the horse is like, all right, I mean, you can do whatever you want. It's your deposit, buddy, but I'm out of here at 10:06.
He's like, I only need it for a second. So it was the weirdest contract. I'm like, just for a minute? I mean, it's going to cost a lot just to drive the horse out here. Layla, of course, is very shocked. She's like, wait, this wasn't a metaphor? This was supposed to be a literal man on a Prince Charming on a horse? Yep. And she's very upset. She's like, I wish you kind of would, like, in a cute way. She's very upset. Like, wish you wouldn't do that. The nurses are going to make fun of me again. He's like, I just wanted to surprise you. And she's like, I really didn't think this was going to happen. Thank goodness I asked my sister in advance about this. I mean, when I told Layla about this prince on a horseback thing, and you see Layla is just behind Rip at this point, laughing her fucking ass off. She is loving every second of this. She's like, I didn't think you would actually get on a horse. I truly did not assume your ass would would rent a horse to show up outside the hospital for like 30 seconds.
Hold on there. He didn't rent a horse. He contracted me.
We have negotiations still going. I'm supposed to get
They were very difficult. They were very difficult because when negotiating my salary, I had to do this.
It took hours. And I'm paid a carrot every 30 seconds. You owe me 16 carrots, you fuck. Rip, of course, is just like, how dare you? You ruined a once-in-a-lifetime surprise. Latla is just laughing. She's just very excited by this. And they just have like a cute little back and forth until Rip is just like, hey, why are you even here? Are you here to put more mumbo jumbo in my, in her head? And she's like, it's not mumbo jumbo. It's fortune telling. So kind of back at the fight we knew they had in the last world. And he's like, all right, well, fine. Have you set a date for the surgery then with all your stuff? Layla requested it, and it's the only thing I'm sort of ceding to you. And she, he's just like, tomorrow. What about the day after tomorrow? When is it? And she's like, nah. Kind of wipes a tear away. I can't tell you that, Fortune. I don't know. And he's like, what? How are you not going to tell me this, Fortune? This is like extremely important. Yeah. She's not going to last much longer. He doesn't get to like fully say it. He's just like, her body is in no condition. But as Layla interrupts and is like, settle down. I'm fine. If I'm going to have surgery, I want both of you to contribute to it. I want her to pick a date and you to perform it. Like, I want both of you to be relevant to this. And she's just like, all right, that's fine. I did peer into the future, though, to see something else. He's like, what, something more important than the date of this surgery? She's like, yeah, your wedding. June 6th seems like a good date. Aww. So she's like, I left you speechless. I'm out of here. I'll help with the celebration. Best wishes, you two.
This is an odd scene because it's, for all the things that have changed since the previous timeline, something that has at least thus far remained consistent appears to be like what the ships are, even though characters have met and gotten to know each other in very different ways. So we know that, like, obviously, like, Layla dies tragically, and although Latla and Rip never, like, admitted it, there was clearly a thing between them. And so in this sequence, there's, like, this whole thing of, like, acknowledgement, oh, well, Layla and Rip they're engaged and stuff. But it's like, there's clearly a lot of chemistry still between Latla and Rip.
Yeah.
And it seems like the whole mood kind of, like, comes down when she mentions that not happening. It's a little odd.
I do get what you're saying, because Layla is like not fully a character. She is like a set piece thing. So whereas Rip and Latla have this great back and forth, they have these dualities and things like that. With Layla, it's just like, oh, isn't it cute?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, they are kind of saying like these are the two who are meant for each other, which are like,
I don't know about that.
Yes, but the fan fiction writers are not going to be doing this one as much as you think they are.
Nah. And I mean, like when one character's just less established than another, that's just kind of bound to happen. Like we've seen a lot of characters that we barely knew at all in the previous loop get very fleshed out and become a lot more interesting. Same could happen with Layla.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, it doesn't seem like she's going to be a combatant kind of character, but we'll see.
So Rip tries to leave. Layla grabs his coat and she's like, "Hey, Rip, will I get better? When I was 5, I was told I wouldn't live to see 20, but I'm still here thanks to the two of you. I kind of want you two to be happy on my behalf. So if it turns out that I'm not going to get better, I kind of want you to stop worrying about me and move on with your own lives." And Rip turns and is like, "Oh, then I guess you won't need this," and opens up a wedding ring. He opens up, he has a little proposal box. And he's just like, "Look, you are going to get better. And you will live. You'll live and spend the rest of your days as my wife." And we just see like the upper part of her face and then like Rip's reaction. And then there's like a sound effect of like flushing. And his eyes widen. And we see she is just dripping blood. Like, it doesn't even sound like she coughed or anything. Just like it is coming out of her mouth spontaneously.
Yeah, while she was in the middle of reacting happily to his proposal, too.
So we get suddenly a panic as apparently this is happening all over the hospital. Patients are suddenly getting spontaneously sick. There's no real consistency beyond it just happening to everyone. There's no like conditions or like symptoms that are going on with it. So everyone's like, what the fuck's going on? Why is this happening? Layla is of course very kind of pessimistic, and she's like, well, I guess my sister was wrong this time. She's usually not, but I really kind of held out a little bit of hope when she said I'd make it till June 6th. But hey, Rip, get along with my sister after all. Having you two has been such a blessing. And Rip's like, no, shut up. Her blessing, her predictions are terrible. You are not going to die here.
Stop trying to die nobly. Stop it.
What are you doing? Just believe in me and her. And Rip looks down the hallway, and it's kind of a weird shot. I think this is meant to be very cool, but from very far away, I was like, who is that? Because you see Fuko down the hallway, and she's standing there with like a case of some kind. And Rip is just like, who are you? Get the fuck out of the way. It's an emergency situation. And Fuko says, the cause is UMA sick, the target of our current quest, and the 10th Master Rule UMA. And we get like kind of a full page spread then of Fuko standing next to Latla saying, Mr. Rip, let me help you. For this illness, your unrepair will do the trick. And she opens the case and she has the metal legs that Rip later on implants onto himself. I forget the name of them.
I forget as well.
Let's see if I can look it up real quick if you want to give your thoughts.
Well, 10th Master Rule, as we all know, was a very unpopular Master Rule in Yu-Gi-Oh! Once they just opened it up to just like you had to only
Blade
have
Runner
have a single monster zone within your opponent's brain, then people really didn't like that. So this was, it's like a nice setup chapter, getting us to know like, oh, hey, this version of Rip is bizarrely soft.
Yeah, he's such a sweetie.
It makes perfect sense. He had an incredibly hard, intense life that made him cold and jaded in the previous loop, and that didn't happen to him. So all bets were off in terms of how he would end up. And he was a doctor. He liked helping people. So this does kind of make sense. But seeing Rip friend to all sick children is just a very shocking start to this.
I've said before I've like been weirdly like a fan of Rip, and I couldn't quite explain it. And I think it was this chapter that made me realize I think I just have a small crush on Rip because he's such a sweet guy in this chapter. You're like, when he shows up riding the fucking horse, you're like, what a tremendous fucking dork. But I can't help but be like kind of charmed by just how dopey of a guy he is and how passionate he seems to be about trying to help everybody. I'm not sure where this is ultimately going to be going. It seems like there's a lot of very new elements going on here. But I'm curious. Like, this seems like there's a lot of cool things at play. And I just want to see how this all starts playing out. You know, the 10th Master Rule and UMA sick and, you know, getting the Blade Runners back on Rip. And I guess they're never going to really address how that's kind of like not like a positive thing, because Phil also was just like, I'm going to absorb all these artifacts. It's actually fine. So I'll be curious if they do address it anyway. But I don't know. There's a lot of things at play here.
Yeah. It's gonna be interesting to get to know the new Rip. I'm still kind of going here. I was like, just put the side patch on. Just put
yeah, you just draw one on if you don't have one. Come on, help me out here.
So I need my depth perception. No, you don't.
You're a doctor. Why would you need it?
You're just a surgeon. Yeah, I'm still kind of just leaving myself open to this. I'm not fully invested in what's happening yet. I'm more just kind of like waiting and seeing stages right now. But yeah, I'm open to what'll happen at least. Let's move on, however, to Blue Box.
Blue Box.
It's chapter number 116. It's rude. So last time, Taiki, we found out that Yusa is not going to be participating in the first year badminton event because, you know, he's off fucking training internationally. Presumably, he's doing like, I don't know, the training in America thing that happens in like every tennis manga.
Yeah, he's kicking a rock across the country from Texas to Las Vegas.
Which will help him with his badminton.
At the end of it, they're like, you're going to be a great running back. He's like, badminton player. Ah, shit. I knew there was something I forgot to check. I should have. I'm so sorry, kid.
So he ended the last chapter, you know, kind of coming across Mochizuki, who's just very lackadaisical about the whole thing. Thinks it's lucky that Yusa's not in the tournament, and Taiki's like, no, it's not. No.
You're wrong. I'm going to beat you up because you're wrong.
Nishida comes by, and Kyo explains the situation to him in the perfect manner, which, of course, we just see happen in Blue Box sometimes, which is something has already been explained to the reader, but not to this one character, and it's summarized as yada, yada, yada. So don't bother writing it all out. Just get it out of the way. So Taiki, you know, just exclaims out loud, "Is like, I wanted to beat Yusa and prove I'm strong." And they kind of make fun of him by saying, "What is this Pokemon?" It's like, no, it's a shonen. It's a shonen manga. Like, there's so many sports people who do this, especially sports teenagers. And Taiki says, it'd be rude to tell myself there's no use fighting anyway. But the two of them show Taiki the tournament ladder. Or I think maybe Taiki just pulls it out himself, and he realizes, like, oh, we'll face off in the semifinals if the two of us just win out. And he knows, like, okay, well, Mochizuki is he's good enough to be on one of the top teams in the region. So why is he selling so short like that? Kyo has a badminton match too. We never see this guy play ever. But he goes to take the court, and Ayame, who of course, you know, was kind of inadvertently kind of like dismissed his chances of winning last time, goes up to him, and she says, like, I'm gonna record the tournament. He says, okay. And she says, I'm sorry about earlier. And he's like, what about? She's like, when I asked who you thought would win. He's like, oh, I don't mind that.
She's like, oh, I really kind of thought you did.
I felt really bad about
You're a tough character to read.
Yeah. So Kyo says, I get why you might see me that way, but I'm not like Taiki. I don't shout my goals to the heavens. That's one of the best things about Taiki. Earlier, he said someone laughed at him, and I wonder if he really isn't scared. Or actually, I think this is Ayame saying this. It's kind of hard to tell because there's no arrows in the word bubbles. But I think it's Ayame saying
No,
this.
I think this is still... Oh, no. Well, no, I think this is all Kyo, isn't it? Maybe not.
Yeah, because Ayame's mouth is open for the latter part of this.
I think it is because he's the one giving like a speech to her.
I don't know. So one of them says to the other.
I think maybe they have like a back and forth, I think, but
Yeah.
it's hard to tell because it's just not like lines.
I think Ayame says, if Taiki doesn't reach his goals, won't the shock be a punch to the gut? But Kyo paused for a second. He says, well, look at Taiki, look at Shono. People can laugh at them, or they can get their feelings hurt. But rather than playing it safe, they keep moving forward despite all the risks. And that makes them cool. Yeah, right.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it is why... oh my god. Shinatsu fell in love with Taiki is just like, he's just really passionate about this.
Mm-hmm. But Kyo says, like, I mean, I don't talk openly about my goals like they do, but I am still determined to win as much as I can. So cheer me on. And he starts to walk off. But before he can get away, Ayame says, for what it's worth, I think how you work so hard makes you all cool. So good luck. And then Kyo turns to her and she's already like turned away and is just running off full sprint. Goodbye!
Yeah, it's a great pose. So Nick, I have thoughts. One, we are continuing to pursue the Ayame Kyo ship, which is good. Do you think it harms the ship in any way that we do not see Kyo? We have not really seen Kyo's badminton to this point in any way.
I mean, I don't know if it's necessarily like necessary, I guess, for the development of that, because this is like a sports series, and a lot of the bond between Shinatsu and Taiki is built on the fact that they're both athletes who are in the prime of their youth pursuing their goals on parallel courses. Ayame's not, though, so I don't think it's strictly necessary for Kyo's athletic pursuits to be emphasized in that regard. It's not like a theme or binding thing between them.
Yeah, I think in my mind I'm curious because we see so little of him that I'm like, in my mind I'm like, does this work the same way? But I think maybe this is just something we'll explore more of. However, because it is such an like underrepresented thing, I'm in this state of like, I like this, but I want to like it a little more. Maybe just seeing more of Kyo will help with that.
He does feel a lot of times like he's just a supporting character, as in he's there for the main characters to bounce off of. It feels like even when Ayame was first introduced, she was much better established as an individual character. She was set up in terms of like, hey, here's this girl and here's what she's about, even before she was defined as she's the team's manager. And so this is how people are going to be interacting with her starting from this point. So it is a little bit weird that we have Kyo, who was just kind of like the guy that Taiki would just have as a foil and someone that, you could confide in. And now he's supposed to stand on his own as an individual. And he still interacts with the cast the same way. He's just the person that they bounce off of, which I guess is because he's just kind of a quiet guy. Now,
do you see him occupying a shoe-like place?
Maybe. Anyway, there's still a lot of the chapter.
Oh, right. We're on page 8.
So Taiki passes by some other badminton players, and they're like, there was a kid saying he wanted to go to nationals. I couldn't help laughing. Maybe we've forgotten what that feels like. We've seen Kyoto's overwhelming strength for too long, and with Yusa now, we can't say things like that. It's like, they're just like, we're just not as good as those guys, so why bother trying? And Taiki's like, oh, how dare you!
I just love how comedically, like, coordinated this is. Where Taiki's just, like, walking by. He's like, oh, gonna head into the stands. Da, da, da. Oh, immediately right behind two guys who are like, oh, man, I just heard some kid say he wanted to go to nationals, and I laughed out loud at him. Boy, let's analyze that for a hot moment. It's very, like, comedically, like, coincidental.
Mochizuki says that the future only amounts to your talent and the effort you put in. So it's rude to the masters when an average nobody talks about his dreams. What? Who is this boy? Yes. It is meaningless to have any ambition. And it is rude to those who are born with talent to have such ambition that is beyond the scope of our human limitation. All right.
Fair enough, jerk.
Do you have a lot of friends with that attitude? It's like, why are you trying to get better at drawing? You're never going to be as good as Picasso.
Yeah, someone's better. Why try?
You must be so much fun. So everyone must want to hang out with you and tell you about what they want to do with their lives. Like, I want to be an obstetrician when I grow up. Why do you want to be an obstetrician? Clearly someone is better an obstetrician than you. So Taiki hears all this, of course, and it's like, oh, did you overhear us? He makes a face at him, and now, anyway.
Out of curiosity, how did you read this seemingly as, like, mocking?
He just goes, did you hear us?
In my mind, I thought he seemed somewhat remorseful about it. Like, oh, I didn't realize you were there. I'd still stand by everything I said, but, ooh, kind of weird.
Right. It's like, oh, this is awkward.
Yeah.
Well. Anyway, they both reach the semifinals. And there is a great, introductory thoughts from the Peanuts Gallery regarding Taiki, which is, oh, right, that guy who was paired up with Haru. I forgot he was there.
Damn.
All right.
Fucking savage.
So before the two of them have their match, Mochizuki says to Taiki, hey, look, don't be mad about earlier. That's just how we think, and it's not like we're going to tell you what to do. But Taiki just cuts him off and says, it's fine. I know how you feel. And they start playing. And Taiki, seems to have the advantage, at least at first. And so people start to realize, like, oh, he's good. And as Taiki gets a nice opportunity, he jumps up for a smash, and he thinks to himself, I thought about it too, that I don't know my limits, and that this might be a far-off goal. But I don't think that's a reason to put myself down. There's zero chance I would ever let that way of thinking get the better of me. And scores a big point off of that smash. And this is kind of like his sort of like silent declaration that he's only just making for himself.
Yeah. Taiki looks cool here. He's like, hey, I've got my motivations. I've heard someone who's critical of my way of thinking, and I'm not going to shit talk them. I'm just going to say that I really believe in myself, and I'm going to try to win this game, and then thus prove them wrong.
And we get some final thoughts over from Haru and Nishida, because Nishida's just having a volley at practice. It's like, hey, you remember that tortoise and hare thing? I think Taiki's less a tortoise and more a wild boar, don't you think? I'm obviously the tortoise.
Like, then quit. Why are you on this team?
Why are you the captain? But Haru thinks about it for a second. He says, even the hare can be overtaken more easily than you think. Ooh.
Curious. So, we'll see what happens. Looks good for Taiki for a moment here.
Yep. It's only 1 point. So we'll see how that goes. Yeah, there's some interesting stuff that happens in this chapter, but a lot of it is just kind of like stuff starting, in a couple of different senses in terms of like developing relationships and also sports. Hooray! It's a sports manga.
Sports. All right, Nick, let's talk about something that is not sports at all. Chainsaw Man.
No,
For
it's chapter 142, Denji Fan Club. So, Nayuta and Denji are at the amusement park. I like how you can instantly tell that Nayuta's being an asshole to the other kids because she's riding around and just going, ah!
This is the best moment of this chapter because the ride they're on is like connected. Like it's what would she be shouting at? Like it looks like she's on like a fixed track, but she's still like, out of my way, assholes. I think it's very adorable.
She's being such a child. Denji's bodyguard says, okay, so you didn't join the Chainsaw Man church. And he's like, well, yeah, look, you can relax. I'm not going to turn into Chainsaw Man. And she says, turning into Chainsaw Man must feel really good because you get all that recognition and respect. I imagine you get like huge thrill. And then she says, it's not all sunshine and rainbows. All right. But, and then she says, yeah, I guess you're right. I'd rather die than get watched in the bathroom like Chainsaw Man. And then she's like, you guys, I'm being watched in the bathroom?
I really love that moment. Wait, what? Wait, what? You're watching me in the bathroom?
Oh, I wasn't supposed to tell you that. That's gross. I jerk off in there.
That's why, this is he's right to be very angry. I like that. The clarification he has to add.
And she just says in response, oh, I've really done it now. I'm going to get in trouble again. He's like, you guys all suck. I'm going to get yelled at. Our problems are equivalent.
It's wild how much of like a fail son character this girl is. I feel like we do know her name and I just haven't learned it. She's just Wiener Girl.
It's come up once.
And yeah, she just continuously kind of beefs everything she's in. Like, I don't know if this is supposed to be like 8D chess, and she's like, no, I'm saying something that's not true to make him be more paranoid. I don't know what her goal is, but it seems like she is just really truly clumsy and like Kobeni, but not charming in any way.
Right, especially in that after we saw her in that whole freaking
I mean, after we found out she's like 26, she's just pretending to be a high schooler.
Right. Let's see if I can find it. But, they have that freak out. Denji accuses her of being a total stalker, and she touched my wiener! And watches him in the bathroom. And she says in her defense, who wouldn't want to touch Chainsaw Man's wiener?
Check and mate, Nicholas.
Yeah, I can't argue with her logic. I admit. Her name is Fumiko, by the way. So, and she says, like, I'm not a stalker. I'm your fan. And then she's like, all the women who come on to me hate my guts. And it's like,
he's not wrong.
He's not wrong. I believe that the only woman that he's had any form of like intimate connection with that doesn't hate him is Kobeni. And I say intimate only because he forced her to go on a date with him when he was a Chainsaw Man monster.
Sure.
So she counts the least, and so she hates.
I think she still hates him, though. I think that's still.
I don't know. I think that she might just like be terrified of everything. So Fumi admits, I do hate you a little bit, because Chainsaw Man didn't save my mom and dad, and this kind of makes Denji shut up, and she says, yeah, the town where Chainsaw Man fought the gun fiend, I lived there with my family. We just sat down for dinner when our house was destroyed. I managed to crawl out of the rubble, and Chainsaw Man and the Gun Fiend were there fighting right in front of me. So I shouted to Chainsaw Man, and I begged him to rescue my mom and dad, but my voice was drowned out by chainsaw sounds. Chainsaw Man didn't even notice me. Denji's like, did your mom and dad survive?
It was... I guess it's just because of the way wording is, and maybe like the implication is far different in Japanese. But I was like, when she said my dad, like Chainsaw Man didn't save my mom and dad, I think the implication is that they passed.
Yeah, she confirms it and then says, "Hey, but you don't need to worry about that, because I don't see Chainsaw Man as a superhero or a god or any of that. When Chainsaw Man turned back into a human that day, I was watching. You were crying, right? And when I saw that, I realized for the first time, the one who's been fighting all this time, while devils kill him over and over again, was just a kid. And that was when I made up my mind to save him. I'm a huge fan, Denji Senpai. Not a Chainsaw Man fan, a Denji Senpai fan."
I do like this as a detail of this character. Somebody who's like, I've seen that Chainsaw Man is human, and I fall in love with that aspect of the humanity. I am not ready to become sympathetic to this character exactly, because one, there's part of me that thinks this might just be a gigantic lie. I just don't trust this character. But two, she's duplicitous in all the wrong way, like in all the good ways as a character. As like a reader, I'm like, I don't like this character for the right reasons. Like I'm not ready to like root for. Also, I've been, I've read enough Fujimoto work to know that this character probably doesn't have a long and healthy future ahead of her. So,
Right.
Either
she's going to betray Denji, or she's going to die very prematurely, or both. So...
but I do really appreciate this like difference of philosophy of like, I'm not a Chainsaw Man fan, I'm a Denji fan.
Yeah, it's nice to know that there is someone out there who actually acknowledges that Denji's
a human.
person.
Yeah, there's a human being in there at some point. And then on cue,
me, I am a Chainsaw Man fan, and it's it's the fucking flamethrower devil. Just sits down next to Denji in the park, and fucking Fumiko looks at him like, well, how did he get here?
I love it. He's like, oh man, they're really impressive. It was no walk in the park just getting right here, but I am here. To be clear, I am here.
So Denji says, what do you want? The guy does that douchey thing where he is not in the middle of it, but he lights a cigarette and then puffs it and then answers. Like, you weren't in the middle of that. That's like when someone asks you a question and then you take a bite to eat and so that you can chew while contemplating. It's like, you weren't doing that before. Fuck you. And he afterwards holds up a lighter and says, check it out. Proof of my fandom. A Chainsaw Man lighter. That's merch that Denji doesn't get any money for. Poor Denji.
This poor kid.
So he says, will you listen to my fan request? Personally, I want to see Chainsaw Man fighting. I want to see him carving up devils with his chainsaws, getting covered in gore, suffering and struggling and getting killed, and despite it all, returning to life and getting back up again. I'm not letting out the smoke. Moments from now, there will be a devil attack on this building's first floor. Just a hunch. And if I had to guess, the folks down there will be shouting, save us, Chainsaw Man! And we cut to a food court where Sword Devil Boy and a couple other members of the Chainsaw Man Church just standing nearby, a crowd, including fucking children.
I like this ending panel because Sword Devil seems like obviously very nervous. The feminine devil to the left, she's ready though. She's got goggles on. She has her jacket on over as a cape. She's got her arms crossed. Like, I don't know. I just like that. Like, let's go energy.
Yeah.
It's bad because next chapter she's probably gonna start killing people. But I just like how dorky she looks at this moment.
Why do these guys suck so much?
I do. I mean, this chapter is like an interesting view of like the two different sides of Chainsaw Man, of the people who view him like the side we've mostly seen of the people who are like, oh my god, you're like an inspiring, almost like, you know, deity-like figure, Chainsaw Man. I want to see you kill and get covered in gore and die and come back and murder and kill and chainsaw and all these things. And then somebody who's just like, actually, I like that there's a person inside of you who seems to be like really troubled by all the shit you had to put up with. And I think that is a very fun dichotomy to explore. I have no idea what's going to happen. This isn't the most substantial chapters, but that conversation is great.
It almost kind of makes you feel like there might be a kind of a commentary on like the fandom of the series.
Yeah, I could see that.
In terms of like, hey, do you just see that there's a bunch of like gore and weird action stuff, or do you also recognize that like, hey, there's a bunch of other like humanity and stuff that happens in the series too, which is what, like, look, the gore and stuff is fun as shit, but also like the reason why the series is as good as it is because there's depth to it alongside that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I guess we'll see what happens. God, like, it's weird because we know that like the Chainsaw Man Church is at the very least being manipulated as part of Fami's like plan to, you know, deal with like the apocalypse and Denji and all this stuff. And despite knowing that, it really does feel like it's like, man, everyone in this fucking church is just stupid. They just suck. All right, but let's move on.
Let's talk, about Eden Zero, Nick.
We do have an Eden Zero, a zero of Edens.
Gotta get the phone for it. Eden Zero, Chapter 255, an unexplored cosmos. So, that was it. That was everything to do with Joker Helix. Apparently, I thought there might be a little more, but they literally opened up this chapter by just being like,
well, she's gone.
Glad that all went the way it did. Done and done. So Old Man Wise and Bernadette, I forget her name, are on the ship, and they're like, oh, wow, isn't this cool? We get, I guess, a ship teasing scene or something with Hermit being like, oh, are you into bunny girls? And Wise is just like, nah, bunny girls like her only go for old geezers. There's a very weird and gross sister joke that I'm not going to touch on, but it's like, I was like, God, I guess this has just become her character at this point. Like, I know she's always been like kind of freaky into BDSM stuff, but this was like straight up like unnervingly horny.
Yeah. It's one of those things where I understand why this has been the case increasingly with Sister, which is that there are constantly 20 characters on this ship, always interacting in every single scene. So what is the point of having any of them say anything unless it's something that only they can say? Yeah. So like Moskoy can overreact to something, so you can have him have a line here. Sister can say something really horny, we'll have her say that here. If you don't have that kind of thing that separates you from everyone else, then you're just like Valkyrie, and you just say normal things that anyone else could say.
Yeah, it is true. I mean, Valkyrie really has like a black hole of personality at this point because she just says lines. Laguna is like, so this means Joker's gone for good, and Old Man Wise is like, well, she's like a game engine, so I guess not. She kind of exists somewhere on the internet, probably. I didn't really think this one through all the way, but yeah, she's probably out there somewhere. And they're like, wasn't that bad? Wasn't she working for Void? Will she attack? Like, won't she just come for us again? And Shiki's like, no, I saw the look on her face. She's a friend now. She's cool. Don't worry about it.
It's a good thing that her void of a face, which is the only thing distinct about her design, faded away to make her a generic female-appearing character whose face had very human expressions.
Yeah, I saw her human face, and thus I was like, you're a good person. You're attractive. Pino asks the question, why would a game engine made by the professor be working for Void? And the story is just like, meh. Maybe they thought the robot idea Void had was pretty cool. They were just gonna join up with Void, I guess, or I don't know. Maybe Void found her first. Who knows? And it's like, sure, dog. I guess None of us had an idea why she did what she did, but we did. That's what the story was. So, fair enough. Weiss looks over to Pino and recalls like a flashback of Pino saying, "If anything happens to me, take this." And he's like, "Oh, hey, by the way," and he hands her like a flash drive, and he's like, "These are the memories that you're missing." And we cut back to the scene. This was only like a month ago, so I don't know if we needed the full flashback, but there's like the 8,000 fucking hot tub scene. So I don't know, a lot of it did blend together. Maybe it is very important that we had this. Of the conversation in the hot spring, which was like, "Oh, hey, have you not told them the secret of the 4 shining stars yet?" And sister getting really angry, like, "What the fuck? You're hiding something from us? Tell us." And Pino just being like, "I don't know. There's something I can't access." So there is something hidden, definitely, but I don't know what it is. Back in the present, Old Man Wise is like, "Yeah, I met you before on Norma. You came to me and asked me to remove these memories." And Pino's like, "Wait, I asked you to do this? Like, what does that mean?" He's like, "Oh, yeah, and then you said you were going to wait in that case for your master." And, like, I don't know if this is like a retcon of some kind or kind of like writing in the moment. They're just like, "Wait, if she was there and then got eaten by the chronophage, wouldn't that have like thrown her 50 years in the future?" And they're like, "Actually, that was a special chronophage immune box that Ziggy must have made." So that's how this all happened.
It's also weird because this is an alternate universe, and the Weiss who did this for her is different from the Weiss who was old Weiss in the previous universe. So that like he's different from that one. So did this Pino only go through this experience in this universe, or did it also happen in the previous?
It must have happened. This must be like a constant. Pino must always go to Old Man Wise, ask for these memories to be removed, and then like kind of say like, "Oh, maybe I'll need them again later down the line." It's a little clumsy. The thing that really bothers me is immediately Sister's like, "Fucking open them. We need to find out." And I was like, "Holy shit! Like you're the worst." Like, you continue to bully this poor robot with anger. I don't quite understand this characterization at all.
She doesn't have an adult's body, so I can't abuse her physically, so I have to abuse her emotionally.
It's fucked up. Everyone else is like, "Of course, we're not going to force Pino to look at this if Pino doesn't want to. It is your choice. You have some form of consent in this situation." And
it's just Sister being a jerk. So it's like she has to be as intense as if there were a divide amongst the group. It's weird.
Shiki, of course, comes up as the captain. Is like, "You don't have to, Pino. Besides, there might be something on there we don't want to know. So if you want to, absolutely, but otherwise, don't worry about it." And the rest of the cast is like, "Yeah, good. This is kind of what I feel like should be happening." I just wish there was like a cut over to Sister who's just like, "I can't," like all grimacing and pouty. Like,
I think the only other person who speaks up with the opinion of like, "Hey, we should check it out," is Hermit. But she's just like, I do kind of want to know about this.
Yeah,
like, that's her only input.
Old Man Weiss and Bernadette are going to leave. Rebecca's like, "Wait, you're not coming with us?" He's like, "Nah, this is your adventure. I'm going to go check things out. And maybe I'll even get to see a young Bernie on Norma, Then he turns to young Wise and he goes, "As for young me, well, you hang in there." And Wise says, "Thanks." And like, as a writer, there's such like a phenomenal world you create. Like when you have the natural opportunity for someone to speak or interact with their past or future self, like there's so much you can discuss in that moment. So much like narrative you can like explore. Like you just think of that question when it's posited to you as a human being. Like what would you say to your younger self if you ever met them? Or what would you do if you met an older version of yourself? What would you ask them? There's such a nothing interaction between these two characters. Like a line that means nothing, you hang in there, and a nothing response of like, "Thanks." It's like, I was like, cool. I'm glad you two characters have interacted.
Here's what I feel about this scene. I'm going to express it to you via imagery.
Okay.
I want you all to imagine an apple. Nice, round, red, juicy apple. perfectly shiny and healthy looking. Must be all juicy and sweet. Pick it up. Take a bite out of it. And you realize there is literally nothing beneath the skin. It just collapses in your mouth. There's no fruit, there's no stem, no seeds. It's empty. It's completely empty. That is what it is like reading this sequence. It's like, oh man, what's Wise gonna say to his younger self? Keep it up, kid.
Yeah, it's just what Foxcloak is bringing out the idea. Future knowledge would be functional useless. I'm not speaking to the idea of like asking them information about. I just mean like emotionally, wouldn't there be things you'd want to ask yourself? Like, hey, I've seen myself in the past. Like, maybe speak to some things like, enjoy your mom while you can, or hey, maybe this womanizing thing isn't for you. Maybe find one person and settle down. I don't know. There's just something you could say.
If you're gonna like continue to gradually push the idea of a ship between Hermit and Weiss, what would actually be something that would help to, I think, get me personally on board with it? If Weiss were to say like, hey, instead of like womanizing people, like find someone who means something special to you, like as a friend first and foremost, someone you could see yourself going on adventures with and spending the rest of your time with. That's how I ended up with Bernadette. And he says like, who knows? Maybe you've already found that person. And like,
there's something. It feels like there should just be something he can say.
And I wrote that in 30 seconds. Like,
it just feels like you could come up with something. Like, right now, One Piece is obviously the big thing. And I know comparing One Piece and Hero is like a whole fucking like loaded argument. But like, you just think to even like because like East Blue stuff is what's popular right now because live action. That line of like Zeph shouting to Sanji like, "Hey, keep your feet dry" or something like that, and you're like, maybe you don't even have a significance to it, but at least just a more interesting line than like what is it? You hang in there. Thanks.
Hang in there,
it's
just hands him a poster of a cat hanging from a tree branch.
It's very silly. Also, like, didn't really say, like, another line to Rebecca. He kind of just existed to be like, I made a game design that almost tried to kill us all. Anyway, you seem like you handled it pretty well. Catch you later. So, yeah, they're off to the Grand Line now, Nick. They've gotten the Mother Ether. They're going to head into an the crappy version here. So they activate it, they install the Mother Ether, it gives them a little video game fucking breadcrumb trail that's like, follow this and you'll see fucking Mother. And I guess at this point really does confirm that like Labilia and Couchpo were just not relevant to the fucking core. They like, I know they said they're like, I think they're probably safer without the ship. I expected some level of interaction before like this all finally happened, but this is straight up just like, I don't know, they just didn't matter. I'm sorry. I thought I had an idea for them, but I didn't. Turns out.
When you consider how many people are on board the Eden Zero right now, it's like when it's January and people are cutting promos about wanting to win the Royal Rumble, and then you get to the Royal Rumble match, and some of the people who are cutting promos aren't in the match because they're that unimportant.
So they're like, oh my god, we're in uncharted territory. There's nothing in this cosmos. All the other cosmos had like unique and cool designs, but this is just empty space. And they're like, wow, we're truly someplace that no one's ever really been before. There, there's nothing wild, but this has mystical feeling to it. And it's like, I guess sure. But they're like, yeah, Mother is somewhere out there. And if we follow the light, it's going to lead us right to Mother. But Nick, it's not there the chapter ends. We then cut over to another portion of the ship. I think it's like their observation deck. And Pino opens up a screen and just says, Master Ziggy, the 4 shining stars. And she's crying, as robots famously could do. It says, no. So it seems she has learned the secret of the 4 shining stars and is not happy with the result.
Yeah, I mean, like, if this actually leads to, like, some sort of actual important revelations happening, then good.
Yeah.
Because, I don't even care if it's good or bad revelations, just as long as, like, something important happens. Please. Please?
I did not hate the end of this chapter. I was like, this is intriguing. This is one of the things that actually, like, gets to me. I was like, all right, I'm, like, on board with this idea. It's just everything around it was kind of weird. I don't know. I don't want to go over everything we just talked about, but basically everything we talked about: bad character writing, like a complete like end to the Joker Helix storyline. Like, I'm not here to even clap. I was like, yeah, I think I called it almost exactly for what was going to happen. Maybe it was a little stupider than I even gave it credit for, but like, it's just weird how abruptly they were just like, and that was that. So I don't know, all sorts of weirdness going on, but we will see. Anyways, let's move on.
Yeah, let's cipher some academies. It's chapter 39. You can't put an army on a stone.
You can't, Nick.
I guess not. Yeah. So, God, Kagoe has updated all the glasses weapons, and she kind of warns Iroha, like, hey, just be careful who you give these to. Can't say this too loudly, and I'm sure you don't want to hear it from me, but these glasses have completely different focal points from before. So they're going to operate differently, presumably. I mean, I imagine it's not going to be a matter of, oh, I have to hold the code that I decipher with these 2 feet from my face instead of 2.5 feet. Like, yeah. But she also says you won't just be putting on glasses; you'll be putting your lives on the line.
Nick, this is intense.
So, we cut to an interview area, which was a conscription area. Now it's an interview area. I guess that's a joke on like maybe Toshusai was like, "Oh, we're gonna recruit people," and Hiro's like, "No, we're gonna interview people. It's voluntary, voluntary." But he's there at a table along with Toshusai and Ensa, and I guess that Ensa's just like gonna just constantly be Iroha's just kind of like buddy companion from now on. She doesn't seem to really do much on her own, but she's kind of Iroha's closest friend, it seems like, during all this. They're interviewing currently Shutan, who just kind of exposits more about her backstory, and in terms of like how her family was doing bad stuff, got involved with Toshusai's family. She ended up becoming Toshusai's essentially younger sister. And Iroha says like, "Oh, so like your parents took her in. They're true philanthropists." And Toshusai says like, "I mean, not exactly. They really just like they were kind of they kind of have selfish goal. And they just kind of did something nice along the way. But thanks, I guess." So Shutan points out that the reason why that she joined Toshusai's former team and focused on developing non-lethal weapons, but then her former team was forced to disband by Shitai Kubinashi and Yukako. And so it's like, all right, so that happened. So Ensa says like, okay, final question. If you receive a glasses weapon over summer break, would you like to be dispatched to Digital Cipher Academy as a soldier? So Shutan thinks it over. And then we cut to the area later. Iroha sums up saying like, all right, we've got ourselves another reserve. I guess I'm just glad that she didn't say no. He seems to be repeating the semaphore dance that has been in the background for this entire time. I guess just keeping it fresh in his memory. And he says like, all right, so we've got, we might end up with a few people left over, given that we've got, certain numbers of glasses weapons, and we can only distribute so many to them. Toshusai summarizes saying like, yeah, Yosamura just said no.
Yeah. And I do like kind of like, it does make sense for someone like her to not be interested in Mork. It turns out not everybody here is like Mork.
Right. But it is also a little bit where it's like, well, we built her up for her to not go on this journey with us. Okay. But Iroha says, on the flip side, I'm surprised Anonymity-san said no. But Toshusai suggests that maybe she wanted to go on her own separate path. It's like, I honestly feel less weird about Anonymity saying, like, I'm not going to do this whole thing, because, like, she feels like she's, developed and changed. So it's like, yeah, she had a character arc. Yosamura hasn't. So,
it is, like, a very interesting space, but, like, because, like, they immediately are like, oh, the only person who really jumped at the offer is Koshibai.
Koshibai.
And you're like, I guess it's a character who hasn't done anything, so I guess we're still kind of in the place of trying to build the full class out, of like give everyone a little bit. I still think there are a couple characters who just feel like they're never really gonna get anything,
Right.
but it does feel like there is an intention being placed in trying to be like, all right, class 1A is significant. Let's try to get a little bit of them out there or whatnot.
Point where Cipher Academy. I mean, I don't know if it's like it's like a lock to last as long as the author wants to do anything. I'm not suggesting that, but we've kind of reached a threshold where it definitely seems like certain ground that may have been kind of like raced past before can kind of be circled back around to.
I think this series is sticking around for a while. I shouldn't. I feel like lightning should have struck as I said that, but I do feel like the series has the ability to go on for a little while longer. So I don't know, whatever pace it wants to go for. Also, they established at the end of this that they have like half the people they need for this mission, so more people might join who said no or whatever.
Iroha indicates that he tried to get Taiyu to join up, and Taiyu's response was, "If you're my friend, you should understand this. I'm definitely not going." And Iroha's like, yeah, kind of sucks. She was like way more forceful in refusing than she was the last time. I think things might have gone differently if you'd asked her yourself. But Toshisai says like, yeah, but just like you said before, there would be no point in doing that. And the same goes for Yukiko, same goes for Shuton. But she thinks privately to herself, even if it was just meaningless words, I'm surprised that Titan would ever call someone friend. Aww. And meanwhile, Iroha and Ensa are
dancing,
doing a weird dance.
Yeah, they're having a good time. I love that. That's very cute. This is maybe my favorite moment of anything.
Oh, this is great. This is fantastic. So Toshisai thinks to herself for a second and then says, Iroha Zaka-kun, I challenge you to a code battle. If I win, you will pass the seat of grade-wide leader over to me. And Iroha's like, what's going on? What are you doing all of a sudden? And Toshisai just presents him with a puzzle that's really weird. It's got the kanji character for right, which is kind of written like the word to, T-O, and then there's an arrow, there's arrows on either side of it pointing in towards it. So basically it's arrows pointing right and left around the word right, as in the direction right. And so Iroha starts to think it over and starts to point his finger, and before he even finishes, Toshisai says, "Oh, splendid! Oh dear, how could I have lost such a critical battle? I suppose I'll have to tell you about my history."
She just wants to explain her backstory, but she's like, "Look, in this world, you don't do anything unless you lose to the fucking clue." So she's just like, "Hey, let's do a puzzle." You beat me anyway. Here's my backstory.
I guess I'll have to tell you how Taita and I got to know each other.
It's so fucking funny. I love that this series follows its own stupid rules of just like, yeah, you gotta beat me in a code battle to find out anything, but I kinda wanna tell you, so here's a fucking gimme.
So she says, "Oh, do you know who the Minister of Defense was 10 years ago?" And he's like, "No." And she says, "That's fine. It's proof our country is at peace." I'm like, fair enough. Yeah. But she says the Minister of Defense's daughter is Tayutan. And so Uriah says, like, well, but you said that you and... She says, yes. She, Non, and I are from elite economic, political, and social backgrounds, strategically forced to grow up together in order to fuse those spheres. And we see that they would play Scrabble together. And
this Scrabble game's all sorts of fucked up. I started to zoom in on it, and I was like, I don't think these kids know how to play Scrabble.
There's a few things where it's like, those words don't make words when crossed over with those.
Yeah, I was like, there's a lot of parallel lines of words, and I'm like, all the letters in the rows then also have to be a word, right? You can't just put a long word down next to another long down word and be like, triple points.
Jtwek is not a word, kids.
Yeah.
Also, they crossover stuff like friendship, kindness with zillionaire, CEO.
Yeah, it's very like emotionally poignant Scrabble as well.
Right.
Like kindness, best friends forever, queen, money.
So Iroha says like, oh, but there's a different minister of defense now, right? Don't tell me the previous one became the prime minister or something.
The biggest issue with this Scrabble board is Morg should have been on it. There should have been fucking Morg.
Tochai says, no. The previous Minister of Defense was ruined 10 years ago after a fatal scandal was revealed, causing them to lose all political power. And so Iroha's like, oh, was it Kubinashi-san who was behind that too? And Tochai says, no, of course not. The one who exposed the Minister of Defense's plot to subvert the government and sent them to prison was 5-year-old Tayutan herself. And
so fucking cool. This kid has been a fucking menace since she's been 5.
Yugata is giving a Yugata look while she's 5 years old and is wearing little kid overalls. It's great.
The overalls, I don't know why they're such a brilliant choice, because it does really capture that spirit of youth, and you're just like, a 5-year-old really fucked your day up, didn't she?
And so Tochai says, like, yeah, I mean, like, what she did was good for the sake of the nation. It probably stopped wars, but it ruined the childhood friend plan, of course, resulting in both Kick Attack planning and the Nohime family being humiliated by a child. I mean, I guess. So afterwards, Nonon and Toshisai went to, find Yugata, who was just kind of like huddled under, a playground set while it was raining. And I love that even at 5 years old, Toshusai has her jacket on with her arms crossed.
She has had a fucking posture and attitude since she came. Like, if they showed the moment of her birth and she came out of the womb with her arms crossed, I would be like, yeah, 100%, that is Toshusai.
So no wonder the birth was so difficult.
They're like, this was extraordinarily painful, but she would not relent. She said it was important for her to always maintain this posture.
And then she made a comment about her mom's ass for some reason.
It didn't make sense. She hadn't yet lost that code battle that forced her to do that.
So yeah, at this moment, Toshusai just says, like, look, you've got nowhere else to go. Just become my little sister. That way we're still friends. And, Yugata was like, no, I sold out my parents. I betrayed my friends. I know that I acted with a sense of justice like I've read about in books. But that's why I can never have friends or family for the rest of my life. So Toshusai grimaces and goes, okay, then just be my maidservant instead for the rest of your life. I don't care what our relationship is, as long as we can stay together.
Aww.
Now come.
In a weird, twisted way. Aww.
In a weird, twisted way. There's, like, details about this that are really, like, that's a little weird for you to say. Like, she said, go home and prepare a bath for me.
Yeah.
She hasn't even said yes yet.
It is actually very funny to me at the idea, like, come on, be my little sister. Let's sit together. Like, no, I've done things and I have a sense of morality that won't allow me to do this. Like, fine, be my maidservant just as long as we're together. And since you're my maidservant, if you could hop, I'm kind of hungry. What's going on? When's dinner showing up? Like, she's like, no, you are my maidservant. So there's tasks that need to be done.
This is not a symbolic relationship. I will treat you as if you were beneath me.
Laundry has not been folded yet, and you're still standing out here in the rain. What the fuck? This is going to show up in your report.
So yeah, Yugata agreed to this right away. So in the present, Iroha says, like, I mean, I never would have imagined that sort of situation was behind why she acts that way. But she says, all right then, leave it to me. I'll become a good enough friend to Yugata-san for the both of us. And the next page is a full-page spread of Toshusai crossing her arms and glaring at Iroha like, don't you fucking dare steal my bestie.
Yeah, she's like, fucking try it, bitch. I'll fucking rip your anus straight out of your body. You're like, oh, usually your butt-related things are a lot more fun.
So she's like, look, no, don't do that. So Iroha is like, huh, and she keeps calling Nohime-san non like it's nothing. I don't know. They don't seem to be unrelated. She still refers to Yugata as Tayutan. I mean, like, whatever. You know, so she says, we saw with the trilemma capture test that she can't exercise her true power due to the fact that she's my servant. So I can't invite her to the cyber brain battle. So makes sense, you know, like if she's kind of like limiting herself this way because of her relationship to Toshusai, yes. So Hiro's like, all right, well, what if there's a way, an option we can only use now, since we haven't gathered up enough people? And he goes to Yugata, who is eating by herself in the cafeteria, and goes, oh, man, Toshusai-san, looks like we're going to be totally on our own in the metaverse, just the two of us. Guess no one else wants to join. All right, goodbye, Yugata-san.
It's so funny because it really firmly establishes. Again, it's similar to like here's a puzzle that you immediately will solve because I want to tell you this. He's not at the table, sits down. Oh, looks like we're going to go into the metaverse because no one else will go with this. Bye! It's just like very
eat a single bite.
Comedically funny.
So yeah, that gets Yugata turned around, and they're like, all right, we've got our first 4 selections, although Koshibai is still listed as tentative. But they do have Yugata on board. And Ensa, who by the way is not one of the people who is going, she's just there being a good friend. She says, so Toshusai-san has the original, which means that leaves 5 glasses weapons left over after, counting all of our, like people who are backups. What are we gonna do with those? Should we interview everyone again, include the people who have declined? Nero says, yes, we should do that. But before that, there's someone who I want to convince, and it'll be elementary to me. So I guess we'll continue the recruiting next time. It looks like we're going to have more involved recruitment going on in this stretch of the story.
I have to assume some of them will be like people from other classes, right? This isn't like an interclass thing or something like that. Because we also haven't like had that conversation that he was supposed to have with like what class F or something like that. So like I assume that's just gonna happen. That's where my thought is. But this is a really, really good chapter. This is just like very funny. It's a great exploration to Yugata's character. And it just, like, I guess captures the stupid energy that makes me enjoy Cipher Academy so much. I'm just like, this is the world we're in. I don't know what to tell you. This is just it. So we're having fun with it.
I won't give you the secret until you defeat me in a duel. Anyway, I summon Petit Moth and attack your Blue Eyes White Dragon. Oh no, I lost! I guess I gotta tell you.
What an idiot I am! Oh, good stuff, good stuff. But Nick, we have a brand new series to talk about.
So we do. It's a new series called MamaYuyu.
Everyone in this series is Italian on them.
It's all Italian people. You can't tell me not to pronounce the series.
MamaYuyu.
It's right there. So we're given backstory that states that there are constantly 2 beings in the world that are opposed to each other. The hero and the demon lord. The hero is one who vanquishes darkness and brings peace. The demon lord is one who rules the world through fear, shrouded in darkness. And we are basically immediately dumped into the scene where the demon lord is a female demon who is the hero's mother. Although she looks like she's like 12.
I was gonna say I thought she was like the little sister character whenever I saw the art.
Right. But she very much acts like a mom to him and is like, I'll be back by 6, and he calls her an old hag and stuff. And so we get like backstory through people who are being interviewed. We never see the interviewer, but there's an interviewer.
Yeah.
And they just like randomly interview people like, oh, what do you think about like the everything that's going on right now? It's like, oh yeah, everything's at peace. And it's kind of weird that like, humans and demons are just like at peace with each other, because some of the people who are answering the interview have demon horns and stuff. And it's like, yeah, we're just like basically, fully at peace with each other. Who's the current hero? I don't really know. What's his name? Non Lay Boy. And so Corleo is the name of our protagonist, and he has this mark on his hand that distinguishes that he is the hero. When the previous hero passed away, a sigil appeared on his hand when he was only 2 months old. He was taken in by the demon lord Mamma
Mamma mia!
Mamma.
There is no I there, but come on, Nick. Mamma mia.
Mamma mia. So she's been raising him. He's now 18. Is he 18 or is he 16? Hang on. 18. So, but it's like, oh, but, it's like, what kind of purpose does he have if he's, the hero who fights for peace and stuff, if they're in a time of peace? What does it mean to be a hero? And so then we cut to, like, at the end of the day, he's gone back home, talks to Mamma Mia, and is like,
Mamma mia, you're 38 years old!
She's really a 38 years old, guys. It's fine.
Yeah, it's very cool to think that.
Yeah. So he's like, I want to like take military training and stuff. And she's like, no, you need to go to college. We don't have any military duties anymore. All this demon king hero stuff is nonsense now. What does it mean to be a hero, though, Mama?
She's like, you got to put the spaghetti on the sauce. You got to put in the oregano. These are the important hero things.
And Corleo, like, just looks back on this history of all these great heroes that there were, and he's like, what about me, though? I just study and eat and sleep, and I live an easy life. Does that make me a hero? Well, I don't want to be a hero anymore. And then all of a sudden, one day, bah! You've got to come to Army headquarters. Check out this badass guy with 5 belts. His name is Evan All Green. And he is all black, basically.
What if we see the title, like the color pages, though, and everything is a different shade of green? Then, Nick, that no one makes sense.
And then it would. It's not, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, you're not wrong.
No. So, he looks at Corleo and is like, there's another one besides me. I'm the hero, Evan Allgreen, and while fighting the Demon Lord, I got hit with some sort of isekai attack, sending me to this world. So he's here, and Corleo's like, oh my god, this guy's a real hero. And then Mama shows up and is like, what's going on? And freaking Evan is like, tries to stab her. Demon Lord, what are you doing? And all the people stop him and are like, oh, well, everyone coexists here. What's going on? Oh, sorry. Well, my Demon King's going to come here and cause disaster, and I'm to blame for not finishing it off. I'm the only person who can stop it, so after I slay the Demon King for my world, you can do what you want with me. Bah. So, a random demon guy says, like, wait, you say you're a hero from another world? That's stupid. And an even stranger-looking human guy says, tell me, when did you come to this world? It's like, I don't know, 8 days ago. And this fucking weird guy just says, well, as the valedictorian of the University Law Department and International Policy Studies, there being 2 heroes could disrupt the world's laws and might possibly cause fatal rifts in the planet. How do you know that?
Sure.
You just said you're a law school and international policy student, not a master of the arcane or physics. What the fuck are you talking about?
He's the smartest guy in the room, so he had to posit a couple ideas.
Anyway, he says that they need to kill Evan Allgreen just immediately.
I do like the idea. We have to kill him! I ran the numbers. We have to kill him right now.
So Evan brings up the point, like, okay, if you are accepting my story that I'm a real hero, then that should also give credence to my story that a demon lord's coming, and if you kill me now, you'll have to deal with 2 demon lords and only have 1 hero. It's flawless logic.
They're like, shit. He's a genius.
So he's like, look, just let me, I'll take care of the demon lord that's coming through, and then you can do what you want with me. And Corleo's like, it was then, as I saw the man who called himself here before me, that I could feel my heart tremble. They make Evan stay in a jail cell, and then Corleo visits him, and Evan's like, you've got no sigil sorcery in this world, right? sigil sorcery lets me go whoosh, fire, woo. Like, yeah, I don't have that. So Corleo's like, I can't. It's great that I get a chance to talk to a hero. This doesn't happen often. And Evan's like, hey, let's go take a walk. Yeah, I mean, like, look, they can't actually hold me here, but I'm just doing it for, you know, to be nice. Teleports them away. It's like, I'll return to my cell later. So they're like, hey, check this out while we spar. And he makes a pair of wooden swords for them to spar with. And Corleo's like, yeah, I've never practiced with a sword before. And Corleo's, and he's like, well, if you've never practiced it before, you're kind of impressive. Really? Yeah, really. And then Corleo's like, what does being a hero mean?
There's a lot of interesting things that are going on with like the paneling at this point. There's like attacks that are leaving the panel. The one movement has like the edges of the panel with like a blur, and then the what does it mean to be a hero is literally framed by like a sound effect for halt, which is kind of interesting.
Mm. Yeah. And so
And Nick's like, and then I keep going. I'm not.
Yeah. Sorry. So what's a hero? Who's soon to be a hero? I don't know the answers to those questions, says Corleo, the quote-unquote hero. He sees a couple of kids picking on another kid and is like, what are you guys doing? Don't gang up on people. And one of the bullies is like, oh, bring it, dork. And the other guy stops him, and the guy who was bullied is like, thank you. And the guy who was a bully was like, just so you know, I'm not running away, fraud. And I guess they fight. I guess. Corleo didn't have a bandage over his face after the training with Evan, and now he does when he's talking to Mama. And he's like, she says, I heard you got into a stupid fight. He's like, I didn't punch anyone. I just gave them a stern warning. And she's like, don't even do that! Be a coward! So, and she says, like, what, you think you're some kind of hero now? And he's like, well, I am a hero. I mean, like, what's the sigil doing on my hand if I'm not a hero? What does that make me? I don't even know who I am anymore. I don't get this. If this is what being born a hero gets me, I'd rather have not been born at all. And Mama grabs him by the sleeve, even though they're like facing each other, so it's a little weird that she does that. But she's like, I'm sorry, I wasn't taking you seriously. I never thought you'd suffer so much from this. I've got my own ideas, and they come from my love for you. Never born. And then he runs away. So she caught him by the sleeve, and then he ran away. It was a little weird. So Corleo's like, what am I? Am I some little kid? I guess I'll go and apologize. Oh, the window behind him turns black, and Evan appears behind him and drags him into an abyss. A gasp! And at that moment, Lady Mama gets a word from outside that a huge thing is coming for them. Meanwhile, in the abyss, Evan, has dragged Corleo in after him. And Corleo's like, "What? Why'd you bring me here?" And he says, "Here it comes, Demon Lord End. A thing of many mouths and hands and eyes." It's gross. It's very gross. And it wants to kill Evan, and it's going after them. And Evan says it's really small. It must have used a lot of energy to come over. It's very big, so it must have been even bigger before. He starts to use his sigil thing. He shrinks it into a cube that is about the size of like a car, which is also accomplished in a way of like the panel like shrinks around it. It's an interesting effect. And Evan says, "Yeah, so I brought you here so I could kill you, because you can't have multiple heroes or multiple demon lords existing. It causes rifts in the world. That weird guy with the glasses was correct. But if I get rid of you and this thing, then there'll just be one hero and one demon lord, and then I'll reside in this world permanently."
He's got good logic. He's like, look,
Yeah.
You kind of also try to do it to me, so like not for nothing, but like, fair's fair.
Yeah. So he's like, look, I got nowhere to go. Even if I kill this Demon King, the environment of my old world is no longer inhabitable. So I use my sorcerer to come to this world. Before you die, though, let me ask you this. What does it mean to be a hero? He doesn't know, too. Uh, and so there's panic outside. A soldier reports to Mama that a giant life form was spotted along with Evan and Corleo. She gets really scared, and then she goes, "Hey!" And she looks at her hand, and the sigil is glowing. And Corleo, meanwhile, is at Evan's mercy, and he's like, "What does it mean to be a hero? I don't know. Look for your own damn answer." And the demon lord breaks free from the cube thing and starts to grow again and come after Evan. And Evan's like, I've never known what a hero was. I thought I knew when I was a child, but I ended up clueless in the end. And Corleo's like, a hero is strong and fights against their foes. That's what they're supposed to be, and yet, wait, that is the answer. Then what? What don't I understand? A hero is strong and fights against their foes. They're always protecting something. Evan has the means to protect himself. Corleo's goodwill was something Evan deemed unnecessary. Ah, what was I talking about? Oh yeah, heroes. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. I guess I've always wanted to be a hero. Anyway, so the Demon Lord came after Evan, who was like very briefly distracted. Corleo got up from his kneeling position, shoved him out of the way. He's in pieces now. Like fully like upper torso ripped away from his legs, arm torn off. He is going to die. And Corleo says, I guess I've always wanted to be a hero, but in spite of that, no wonder I didn't have a clue. And his eyes go dark. And then he wakes up, and Mama is crying over him. And he looks up and also sees Evan. He's like, what happened? Oh, I beat the Demon Lord.
I do that. I did it. The thing I told you would be very easy, I did it. It was very easy.
It was very easy. And Evan says, I am trading my life to heal you. Listen, I've killed people. Friend, foe, I've killed anyone necessary. My world was cruel and I couldn't survive there otherwise. Don't think of me as a hero. A hero fights to protect. You're not a hero because you're strong. You're not a hero because you fight. You grow stronger to protect, and you fight to protect. I'd forgotten that. I had tried to forget it. If you have a heroic heart, everyone will call you hero. Be proud, Corleo. Without a doubt, you are a hero. And Evan fades away, just like fully. And as he goes, we see like this calling out to him. Different people that he knew in life that he kind of just name drops briefly. He thinks, I couldn't protect a single thing. And he thinks, can I come over to your side? And the last voice says, let's all talk again. But then the last note that we end on is Corleo waking up, fully regenerated and healed by Evan's magic. Evan's gone. His equipment remains behind. And Mama is crying over him. And it's we get our full title drop. MamaYuyu, #1, The Day I Became a Hero.
I feel like I've got an idea on how you feel about it based off the way you discussed it during a recap. Doesn't seem like you had a ton of interest in this one.
No.
I will speak to a more positive side. I was actually pretty impressed with this first chapter. It's not perfect by any stretch, but it does do that thing that I really like, which is like the first chapter really feels like a full story. It's not necessarily a chapter that's an introduction to this world. It felt like it was trying to tell something. It gave us a small arc for this lead character. Really, at the end of this chapter, all I know is Corleo has some measure of an idea of what it means to be a hero now, and he wants to continue to try to aspire after that. But I don't know what the full series will be about, and I think that's going to really nail down a couple things for this series. It kind of established that it's already a world at peace, so I'm curious what his path to being a warrior, a real hero, is going to be. I don't think we really got anything of Mamama's character, and I would like to see a little bit more of her to see what it seems like she's going to be the other primary protagonist in this series, or like secondary character. So I'm very curious to see like if they can flesh her out. I don't want to say like, oh, this is an instant hit, or even that this is like really, really good. I just want to say I was impressed by this. I thought that there's at least some level of potential. I like that there are very creative ideas in the paneling, in like the, you know, sort of the layout of the pages. The art's kind of out there, but like in a comfortable way. Character designs worked. I don't know. I think I'm not like down bad for this series, but I am interested to see like at least the next 2 chapters.
I experienced nothing when reading this chapter.
And that's fair. I could absolutely see how that is possible.
So I did not experience anything negative about it that will make me say like, oh no, this is gonna suck or anything like that. I literally read this chapter and just felt like, okay. And we'll see where the next one goes. And it felt a little bit weird to read a chapter as long as it was, and then go, okay, and not feel anything.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to reserve full judgment on this for a little bit, because it really feels like this was just a prologue. Like it felt like this was the first 10 minutes of the movie. That that's it. Nue Sexorcist. My God.
We gotta get to it, Nick. It's all about I forget what this chapter's even about. I'm like sitting there, I'm like, what happens in this chapter?
I mean, not a lot, really. It's okay. So chapter 17, I was afraid. I was petrified. Couldn't even think about my side. But that's Shiroha. She lost.
Ain't
the
no
fight.
mountain high enough. I get it, Nick.
Yeah. Staying alive. So, Gakuro won the duel with Shiroha by breaking her exorcist weapon thing. But he got his ass kicked a bit too. So he he fainted and was unconscious and stuff. Has a nightmare about Shiroha being fucking executed by her family and him not being able to stop it. And he literally like reaches out to try and stop it, and when he awakes, he's reaching out for the ceiling. But Shiroha is like watching over him as he recovers, and he was brought to the occult club room, and Nue healed some of his wounds following their duel. And he starts to say something when she like after she's confirmed that he's okay, she immediately like turns away from him. And when he starts to say something, she says, "My loss of composure over your words led to my defeat. But I don't consider that my failing. It was your strength." It's kind of nice. Kind of a nice little moment there. Mm-hmm. Instead of like, she's not beating herself over the way that she lost. She's like, yeah, that's how strong you are. So then she asks, like, it looks like you're kind of having a nightmare. And Gakuro is like, yeah, what's going to fucking happen to her now? And she says,
"Oh no, because I whooped your ass. Are they gonna kill you?"
"Oh, because I totally owned you. They're going to murder you now, Shiroha, because you suck and I rule.
You're gonna be dead like my dad."
And that's terrible. Terrible, like how terrible you got your ass kicked by me. I'm so sorry.
I don't have many victories under my belt, so I'm really just trying to live in the moment. Just like that moment I kicked your ass!
You know how it's like, act like you've been there before? I've got no context of what being competent at anything is like, so I gotta rub your face in it.
I've never even seen the podium before, Shiroha. You have to understand how special this is for me right now.
You loser! Anyway, Shiroha says that he's a good person.
This is my favorite moment. Is she turns and she's like, I'm probably gonna die because I lost, but you have a greater purpose, and you have to protect Nue. So don't worry about me. See ya. And you're like, see ya. You're like, I'm gonna go die now. Catch ya.
It's just
all right.
She's like fully resigned to it. She even has that very like, sad dramatic line ready to go where Gakuro is like, he can't get up to stop her because he's still too hurt. So Fujino! And she says, "It's been fun." And it's like, another chapter would have ended there. Like another series would have ended chapter there and be like, oh no, what's gonna happen to her? It's like, no, we're on page 4. Nue bursts through the door and it's like, all right, so I'm not letting you go anywhere because you will die. Fortunately, I am broken. I can do whatever I want.
Yeah, they're like, there's a very complicated mechanic to why you can't go anywhere, but I'm just going to kind of negate that.
Just gonna take it that way.
But she does at least, they do, well, I guess we're about to explain it, but they do at least stress that, like, there could be consequences for what happens here.
So she says, like, look, I can't let you go home, and I'm not gonna let anyone come after you while I'm here. And, but Shura is like, look, don't even bother. My soul gear has constraints called insidious binds. So literally, the design of her mantle that has the hands choking her, that has a functional purpose, which is literally a bind on her, which I'm fine with.
It was interesting. I was like, oh, there's like a purpose to it. But a spoiler for like 4 pages later, like that part gets removed, but that is still a part of her costume. And I was like, I mean, fair enough. This is the best part of her design. So
cool. Yes. So Nue just takes a look at it very briefly, and they're like, yeah, Gyokotsu's contract can be transferred over if they have my body, so they will just kill me and still maintain, my contract with him. So Nue's like, all right, change into your soul gear. Okay. Yeah, I could try and rip them off, but that would just damage your nerves. So yeah, I have control of them. Your family no longer has control over your life. And Shiroha is not given enough time to like react to this. It is a very routine shortcoming of Nue Sexorcist that just like stuff's just like, it's done.
Yeah, it moves very quickly. Shiroha is literally just kind of like sitting there dumbfounded, and Nue just kind of stampedes her way through all of it.
Yep. It's just like, okay, yeah, you can.
You're no longer controlled by your family. Instead, I am now controlled by your family, but that's okay because like it all works out anyway. Let's have dinner. We're all gonna eat here tonight. And like, what the fuck? Like, what's happening?
Yep. There is kind of a cute like end to the scene because like Gakuro is like, I don't know how to react to anything. I'm ill prepared for these circumstances, as most circumstances I am ill prepared for. So I'm just going to stutter your name. But she says, sorry, I feel drained and can't seem to stand well. Can we just stay like this for a while?
Yeah, that's like a cute scene. I think I've realized the only thing that I really like about this series is Shiroha. So I think I just want a series about Shiroha. That's what I've come to realize.
A spirit girl shows up.
I legit, when I turned this, like I got to the bottom of the page, I was like, who the fuck is this character? I've never seen her before. And then the next page, like you turn the page, and you're like, who the fuck is this? I was like, thank God I wasn't supposed to know who this character was. I like sat there for a moment. I was like, come on, think of every chapter they've introduced characters. Is she one of the girls from the beach? There were 3 of them. There were 3 girls from the beach.
But no, it turns out she's just a spirit friend named Kathy. All right.
Anyway, Kathy.
She's here. Here she is. Okay. They have a little toast and dinner. And then Nue has a bit of a conversation with Shiroha while they're eating. And it's weird because they have a little private conversation while they're sitting at a very loud table. And Shiroha says that the loser would be given recognition for doing their best is a new and very strange concept to me. I would normally be stripped of my abilities and disposed of. And Nue just kind of looks at it for a second and says, yeah, I got my work cut out for me.
You have a lot of trauma. I have to unpack a lot with you.
Yeah, so she's like, you're going to be experiencing a lot of new stuff from now on. Which is probably the most, for lack of a better word, human that Nue has acted in this series so far. Where she's just like, yeah, I'm going to help you out, but it's going to take some time. Anyway, Shiroha and Gakuro are going to sleep in the same room. What?
This, again, is such like a weird thing the chapter brings up. It's like, okay, you guys are going to sleep here together. Gakuro, you're also going to be here. And I'm like,
yeah,
I get why. Like, they established that Shiroha has to stay here now. She cannot go out. That like, her family will find her. She needs to kind of stay here under protection. And it's like, I guess Gakuro needs to stay here to protect her. Or, again, Nue. Again, I think this is just Nue is like,
it might just be
I'm trying to set you up. Like, I am trying to push you guys closer together.
Yeah. Kyokatsu is also in the room since he's bound to Shiroha, and they have like a little privacy curtain kind of arranged between their mats on the floor, their tatami mats, and he also. But and then Kyokatsu says it was like, "Hey, I need to talk to Nue for a bit, so take care of Shiroha." And Gakuro's like, "What are you doing? Please be more specific." Such great wording. It was like, can you be more specific? And he says, like, really bluntly, like, Shiroha can't sleep by herself. So I'm gonna leave the curtain open between you two. And then he leaves before Gakuro can really protest. And Shiroha's like, yeah, you can ignore it. I'm gonna close the curtain between you two. But literally, like, before she can even close the curtains, like, her hand is trembling. And it's like, God, this poor girl has just been through so much fucking trauma. She's terrified to be alone in the dark. And Gakuro says, like, I get horrible sweats when I need the curtain to not be there. So they just lie down next to each other. And Gakuro's like, oh, we're so close to each other. And Shiroha just reaches over, just pokes him in the arm.
It's so fucking. She has become such a fucking whoopee character at this point.
Yeah.
Just like, oh, I'm like, she doesn't like ever get like ooh or anything, but she's just like,
Right.
I get scared. Can you hold my hand? I actually get pretty nervous being it. It's like, oh my gosh.
Yeah. She explains more like, this is why we had to go after Nue and everything. I didn't have any thoughts on the matter because the entire family, the entire Exorcist world's goals are connected to this. The entire Exorcist world, which I don't know.
I just love that the entirety of this conversation really is kind of establishes the two sort of dynamics of these characters, which is like Shura has like a vested interest in this world, and she has like all these deep personal feelings, and there's a lot of things going on. And Gakuro just has the same fucking stunned ass expression in every scene, like like he's seconds away from just screaming in existential terror.
It's gotta be crazy to hang out with a guy like Gakuro who just has that same level of reaction to everything.
Dude doesn't.
You're another exorcist.
Dude has no thoughts to provide. There's nothing going on in his head.
Your parents are dead.
Except pure panic. Everything you try.
That's not good.
Everything you try to do with him, he responds by getting more nervous. But at the end, you're like, hey, I don't know, dude. Weirdly, his name isn't in the title of the series, but he's still the main character. I guess he's the Exorcist, so I guess he is.
He is the Exorcist.
Yeah.
Yes. I can't sleep by myself at night. That's not good. I need you to sleep next to me. That's not good.
It's the face. I know it's because she's touched his hand and he's just so nervous about it. But it's still wide his eyes get the fact he said nothing. Like he's a step away from pissing himself and being like, I have to go home.
Eventually he does get it together and he does actually put his hand on her hand and she immediately settles down and goes to sleep. And that's all she needs, Anyway, having that moment, which is tender on one end and awkward on the other. And meanwhile, Shiroha failed? No, but even so, understood. This is an order from the Lord. Damn it to hell! How many freaking times am I gonna have to kill my pupils? And we are introduced to Shiroha's battle instructor and superior, Moroyoki Fujino. Oh no! He's a guy in a tracksuit.
We'll see this. There's a lot of weight on this character for this series that is annoyingly popular. But there's a lot of weight, I feel like, for my ability to enjoy the series, because I don't know what role Shiroha takes from here. That sounds like she's still going to be involved because this guy's trying to kill her. But, right. You're introducing a new character now, and he's for one, I don't know why he's covered in a lot of ink. There's so much ink around his eyes. But we'll have to see. If this dude's not interested, I'm very worried for the future of this series. So hopefully this is going to be like an interesting antagonist.
Yeah, we will see. It's going to be a different approach. It's also going to be a little bit weird that Shiroha was like the fourth important character introduced to this, and she's basically just the deuteragonist at this point in terms of how much she has played into the plot so far.
I'm still always wondering if the first girl is ever going to show up again.
Yeah,
like, that felt like a character. I feel like she kind of got the what was the name of that girl from fucking
Bone Collection?
No, the one with the little fucking blob guy. Dodoro.
Dorohedoro?
Dorohedoro? No.
Dora.
How can I forget it, Nick? How can I forget
Doron?
Yeah, how can I possibly forget him? But the female lead from that, Gachiro, or just whatever her name was, who just disappeared from the series. Like, I wonder if that's the level we're going to get here, where they're just going to be like, she's not actually that significant anymore.
I don't know. Anyway, let's jump over to Tenmaku Cinema. Scene 21. The first movie continued.
It's not.
Which is also the final movie.
The series is ending. There will be an extra chapter in the third volume, though, if you pick that
up. Disappointingly, because the series was canceled so early, we see like none of the completed movie at all. It's just pretty much all, except for the scenes that we've already seen, just left entirely to the imagination. So like we see the sequence where like Nagisa says goodbye to her mother. We see Hajime just kind of like looking over, not looking over, but like remembering all the stuff that they went through when making the movie, including when Tenmaku, grabbed his arm so that he could write the script for the movie. It closes on Nagisa saying, "I'm home," goes to black, and then credits roll. And as credits roll, a hush falls over the crowd, and then
it doesn't work with only two of us. They just get faster and faster, and he's like, "Oh God, they're all breaking."
And Kurai and Hajime look around at the audience, all giving them a huge round of applause. Some people are standing for it. The people who are watching the stream are all like, "Yeah, good on our guys there." And the judges are
real Roy's our boy energy.
Yep. Everyone's very happy about it, except Kurai's mother. And there's also some people who just like come over to Kurai and are like, "Oh, it's so good, it was so moving and stuff." And Tenmaku says to Hajime, like, "Hey, doesn't it feel good? They're cheering for you." And Hajime says, "It's not just for me." Tenmaku says, "The movie belongs to the director. Really, you've worked so hard." And Tamaku's like, maybe you're disappointed that I haven't crossed over yet, though. And Hajime says, like, when I watch a movie, I'm the type who likes to watch to the very end of the credits.
This is such a fucking cute moment. I love this.
He looks at the screen, and of course, while everyone is freaking out over the movie they watched, they're congratulating Kurai, they're discussing excitedly. Hajime and Tenmaku seemingly are the only ones who look at the screen as, like, just a little bit of inclusion there. There's the credit written by Takehiko Tenmaku.
It's so cute.
Aww. And Hajime turns to Tenmaku and he says, "I'm going to pursue a career in filmmaking." And he takes Tenmaku's hand and says, "I want to continue working together. Will you team up with me?" And Tenmaku thinks about the advice that, when he was first given his name, and he says, "Of course. It's the first time I got to put this name out there."
It's really good stuff. Really, really good.
Got ahead. They got the hardware.
Yeah, I was like, wow, there are real fucking fancy ass trophies for this like high school fucking film competition. That's pretty cool.
Hajime got an award for best script, which of course is actually Tanaka's award, but they also got a special award from the judges, and of course Kurai got best lead actress. Kurai's mother comes over and is just like, "You got some fucking nerve, kid, using my daughter for this." And Hajime starts to get scared. But she says, while she was wrapped up in this indie film, there were all these other offers for work. Small potatoes compared to the roles that I find for you normally. But among them, there could have been hidden gems that would make you sparkle like the shore. From now on, let's talk it over and decide together what projects you do. Yay! Things got a bit better between Karai and her mom. And she also turns to Hajime and says, the next time you want to, work with Karai, go through her agency and make your offer. Which is actually very cute. Just like, hey, if you're going to be a big time movie maker, you got to go through the proper avenues. So Hajime gets all determined, and he says Karai, and then he's like, no, I mean Himeki Kurakui. He's like, addresses her professionally and stuff. I Hajime Shinichi, will continue making movies. I'll keep honing my abilities, achieving new milestones, so that one day I'll be the director worthy of working with you again. So when that happens, and Karai is like, I want to be in your next movie. Fuck you.
I like she's all puffy. Like, what do you mean? I want to be in your next movie. Like, oh, it's very cute. You don't. I mean, it's good to branch out, though. To be clear, Hibeki, you have a lot of potential. I would marry yourself to this horse.
You don't have to be Helena Bonham Carter for this. All of the rest of the crew showed up. It looks like they got a ride from Karai's driver, which, if that is the case, is very cute.
Yeah.
And they come and they celebrate together. They're like, looking over the trophies, and it's like, hey, they did this together. It's very sweet. And they go to take a picture together. And while they do, Tenmaku thinks to himself, Old Man Shirakawa, I hope you're seeing this. Together with Hajime, we're going to make fantastic movies. And in just that fleeting moment, Karai notices something and gets distracted. And she points and says, just now it seemed like someone was right there. And both Hajime and Tenmaku together go, huh? And they take a picture, and it's a really weird picture because the rest of the crew are going, yeah!
And fuck yeah! Suck our nuts! And two people are like, ghosts?
And we close on a bit of narration over a framed picture of this moment. It's been a little over 10 years since we took this picture, and a movie starring Himeki Karakui has become world famous since then. The movie's title is The Fang. And this is a nice little, just like, hey, little ending. Okay, get like, don't worry, it all had a happy ending. But no, you don't get to see it the way that all manga do.
Yeah. So I do like that this series will get its extra chapter, so that helped to like kind of fill in the spot here to let this chapter just be about the shore and its resolution, stuff like that. It would really sucked if they were like, nah, you don't get that. And it's like, shit, I promise that. Like, it kind of set up the idea that he would do the Fang as well. So like, it's nice there. It's a bummer this is ending. I really, really like this series. But I also have come to accept that I think I would like this subject matter in just about anyone's hands. And ultimately, this series, in like a more objective sense, is it great? I still think it's really good. I think the passion in there is great, but if I do look and compare it to things like Akane-banashi and things like in its kind of contemporary space, I can see why this didn't catch on in the same way. That said, I'm bummed we won't get to talk about this anymore. I really, really enjoyed this series, but sometimes them's the breaks.
Yeah, this is going to go very firmly in my, early cancellation pet favorites kind of thing. And yeah, I do think that a big thing that was holding it back was just not giving like a sense of like, oh, something huge was accomplished here regularly enough. Because, like Akane-banashi, the performances are much shorter than 20 chapters each. So you get to have a lot of like senses of milestones being achieved and stuff. And I feel like maybe if things were tweaked a little bit, you could have had something like that happen. Yeah. But hey, Sukuda and Seiki, they're gonna be just fine. Like they're gonna get something else down the line, I'm sure, and maybe they'll have better luck on that one. We'll see.
I hope so. But I'm glad we got to read it. Let's move on to Elusive Samurai. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that so harshly.
Chapter 125.
I'm in this weird place right now with this series.
It'll be okay. It's all right. We're gonna have story book endings, and we're gonna immediately transition into more pedophile soldiers and the Elusive Samurai. It's chapter 125, reunion 1337, and it's a cool picture of Tokiyuki with a dragon. Yeah. So Pompadour Samurai guy showed up and is like, I am going to take Ayako. Just gonna do it. And I am a comedy character, by the way. Look at my goofy pompadour. I put armor around my pompadour and it serves as a helmet. Oh, aren't I goofy?
It's
Let me at you.
It is a very weird thing that she's like, oh God, I hope I don't get knocked out, because if I do, he's just going to take me.
Take off.
And I was like, that's an unnerving sentiment.
It's terrifying. Oh no, this guy is going to kidnap Ayako and forcefully child bride her. Oh, but look at his goofy pompadour.
But
he got knocked off his feet by a bunch of arrows, and as he's going downhill, he just has to run really quickly down the stairs while swinging his sword. How goofy. He wanted to kidnap and do bad things to Ayako. What a wacky.
It is like that weird Matsui humor where it's like very dark and cruel at times. And maybe I'm just in a different place in my life, but I was just like, yeah, I'd like more Ayako. I just don't know if I want this particular version as much. I don't know. I don't know. I'm not vibing with this series nearly as much as I used to. We're still stuck with a lot of characters I just don't give a shit about.
Mm-hmm. So, according to Shiba, this was very good for his side of the battle because it disrupted the Hojo's forces, and now they are on to the second move. Behold, Tokiyuki, my secret weapon! And they open up a box and pull out Yasuye, who is really beaten the fuck up. His hair is all pale and stuff, and he looks like he's not doing well. He doesn't even have any symbols on his head. No! So Tokiyuki reacts to, his uncle being hoisted up on a rope, and he says, Shiva says, surrender, Hojo Tokiyuki, and I will spare Yasuye's life. And of course, Tokiyuki is completely stunned by this. He's distraught, can't take any action. A bunch of the other troops are shocked as well, and Shiva, just continues and presses the attack. And he's like, all right, if you're not going to answer, I'm going to take it that you refuse. People charge in. A guy attacks Kojiro. I believe this was the guy who survived the experimentation by Uesugi, I think. And he hits Kojiro's sword so hard that oh my god, my grip is dead from a single blow, and then he just knocks him fucking away. So he's not able to protect Tokiyuki, who is still stunned. And everyone's like, oh shit, what do we do? And Tokiyuki's like, I'll never forgive you, Shiba, but what should I do? I need time to think. And he's just stunned as Nagao charges towards him until he is knocked away because, hey, remember that girl with the leg sword thing? She's here. It's Sheena. And she says, your servant Sheena awaits your orders. So, hey, I guess during the time skip, she got good using her weapon thing.
Okay. I don't know how to put words into anything at this point. I don't hate Sheena. She is just at this point an 18th character to have to pay attention and follow at this point. It's very Eden Zero. There's just so many fucking characters in this cast at this point that I'm just I don't know. I think she needs to develop something besides an aesthetic before I'm going to be able to truly connect with it. But it's cool. We're paying this off. This was something kind of in the back of my mind. Oh, we kind of promised this character would show up, and she did. So that's nice.
It was nice that there was a different thing happening as well. A different trial to overcome. It's oh, hey, well, Tokiyuki is the person who runs away and stuff. Well, how do you do that when there's someone you care about who's literally just being held hostage? You can't just win the battle by running away. What do you do? And it did feel like, hey, there's like proper dramatic stakes happening for a good like half the chapter, and she shows to be a big hero. It's like, hey, it feels like a nice big entrance for her. So this was, I feel like, a if we were to divide all of the chapters of the Elusive Samurai into put them on a scale of bad to good from this entire calendar year, this is going to be up towards the positive end pretty far. It's just that entire scale is not very high up.
I
in terms of
think
where it all falls.
I think there's a place that I've accepted I am where I have to just reevaluate how I approach this series, because I think I just need to like scale back what I expect out of it or what I'm going to get out of it. Like, I'm not going to be enjoying this series the same way I did, 2 years ago or whatever. That just doesn't seem to be the case anymore. So I have to reapproach it and be like, find what I can and just connect with it that way. Because otherwise it feels too much like a slog.
Yeah. Akane-banashi is what we're going to close on, because there is no One Piece this week. So it's story 77.
This was, I know we only have done this for like, this is the second week, but this was a good decision because of weeks like this.
Yeah. Story 77, I'm burning up. So we just kind of like flow straight into this one from Guriko's thoughts on the last one, which is him realizing that he's just not as good as Akane already. And, he just thinks about how everyone in the Shigama school is, so talented. He's like, oh, Maikero is a really hot commodity. Koguma has all this Rakugo knowledge. Kyoji is popular with his compassion and honest storytelling. All of them are role models for me. I aspire to be like them. So I decided that in the same way they were inspirations to me, I wanted to be a role model for others to aspire to be like as a senior apprentice. So he wanted to be that way for Akane, but she's already better than him. And this very brief explanation really hit it home for me, what he was going through when it was brought up in the last chapter. It seemed much more nebulous than like, oh, he's feeling like, bad because Akane surpassed him. But it's like, yeah, because he can't be someone for her to aspire to now. It's a very big brother thing, which is appropriate for the way they've defined their relationship so far. And so, yeah, Gurka says, like, her improvement is insane. She's built different. But he also says, look, I don't want to give up on myself. I know it's just pointless pride, but I want to be like you guys. I want to run ahead of my little sister apprentice in terms of skill and be the kind of older brother apprentice she can look up to. And he bows deeply before Maikero and says, I want to get better. You have to help me. And so Maikero says, well, do you have anything in mind? And he starts to explain himself, but then the fireworks like finale goes off and it completely drowns him out so that only Maikero can hear it. And he's like, yeah, I like it. All right, fine. Keep your secrets, Manga. So Maikero says, like, I know they're just the person. I'll get you in touch with them. And then after that, it's up to you. And Maikero goes on to say, I'm glad that you and Akane are both taking this seriously. I think it's time I did the same about graduating to Shinichi. So
what a big deal.
He like fully stands up, poses with his hands in his pockets, and is like, yeah, this is my cool character moment. This is make my declaration. Kyoji comes around after not getting drunk, gets a call on his phone, and it's a call from Master Miroku, whom we've probably only very briefly seen before. But he says, like, look, I've got something for your ears only. And again, don't get to see the rest of that conversation.
Yeah, there's a lot of little like, all right, keep your secrets, old man.
Yeah. So we cut over to Akane and Koguma, who are watching the fireworks show together. And Koguma says, hey, by the way, about that 4-person event, don't feel bad for me, all right? And we get a flashback to like, oh, right, when Koguma's like, please win.
I need to know somebody at this event, please.
But he says, like, yeah, I feel silly for worrying about you. And Guy is like, I'm sorry. And then she says, good luck in the 4-person event. And he says, yeah, thanks to all the excitement in the selection round, yeah, there's a lot of interest from the public about it. Perhaps this is the greatest chance I'll ever have to make a name for myself, and I intend to take advantage of it. But then he checks in with her and he's like, hey, how are you doing? And Akane says, I realized something during the selection round. In Rakugo, weakness can be a weapon too, but weakness is not the same as inexperience. The wavering of my emotions on stage, my defeating competition, are all due to my inexperience. And she thinks to herself, that's why I didn't meet the expectations that were placed on me. It's like, oof. So she's still feeling bitter about that.
Yes.
But she says, not only have the clouds lifted, the sun is out. I'm burning up. Since the selection round, I've come to realize I want to polish my skills a whole lot more. I'll do anything I can to become a futatsume. And her main focus in all this is to catch up with, I can't even remember his name. Like, we haven't seen this guy enough for, like, how important he has become.
There's a lot of rivals in this series as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm blanking. I don't know. Remember his name.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
But her futatsume rival is who she is thinking about during all of this. Like, she had a lot of regrets in a lot of different directions, and now it's like, no, he's the reason I feel like I've got to live up to myself, my expectations.
Kaisei, they're saying.
Yes.
Thank you, Black Gendo.
Yeah. All right, one more thing, and one more.
One more thing.
Shigema is approached by Urara, and Shigema is like, "Oh, did you feel like paying me a visit?" And she says, "No, I just want to wear a yukata."
That's fair. It makes sense.
Yeah. But she also says the Kashiwaya Wonder Child was asking me about Shigema's art. Kashiwaya, who we also saw earlier, by the way, he was around Master Miroku when he called Kyoji. And so Urara says, I think he assumed I would be the easiest person to ask about it, which I found rather insulting. Shigema says, did you tell him? And she's like, no. I made up a likely excuse and left him in the dark. I'm not cut out to be helpful. Does that surprise you? And Shigema says, no. But he says, like, yeah, the Urara-chan I know wouldn't have told him. People just don't change that much. And Urara's like, yeah, they don't change. And yet, we have changed quite a bit. We get a shot of the two of them hanging out with... I can only assume that one of these is... Oh, gosh. Isho. But I'm not sure who the fourth
the guy on the left is definitely a show.
Right.
I'm not sure who the guy on the right is supposed to be. I do think it is supposed to be someone we know, though. I'm just blanking on the different masters.
And, I mean, like, you can kind of tell that it's Shigema in the middle because they've got the same jawline and stuff, but they do all look very different from how they do currently, except for Urara, who, you know, is a light-skinned female character, and there's two of those in this series, so... But Shigema says, we can't help that we've changed. We all rest on a different axis. Our paths might part ways, but we have to keep moving forward, or we'll never reach anything. And he says this on a panel of his 5 apprentices, all looking off in different directions as they prepare to move forward. And yeah, this is a very cool, inspirational little chapter.
It's a wild chapter because I guess I wasn't really expecting this, but it does make sense that, like, hey, we established that there were students in the Arakawa school, and we've gotten to know each of them a little bit, and this chapter kind of goes to show, like, they are about to go their separate ways. They are all about to kind of branch out away from each other. Not exactly. The only one who seems like they might leave to any extent might be Maikeru, who's going to, like, try to promote to an even higher level. But it does seem like all of them are advancing in their own ways, and it's kind of reflected the idea that like, oh, at one time these four here were also sort of peers to one another and whatnot. So it's a very interesting way of kind of establishing things, and I don't know, it caught me off guard how like, oh, interesting. Everyone's going to be doing their own thing now, it seems.
Yeah, it's got a very Naruto kind of sense to it, where it's like anytime that there's a lot of focus on like a past character, it's like, hey, check it out, they had like the exact same dynamic as like a current group from this series.
They lined up one for one again.
Not quite as like that. The mere fact that we're talking about a group of 4 in one time and a group of 5 another is like, oh, okay.
Still only one girl in each group, though. That is, you can't. It's a similar world to Naruto. One girl per team.
Yeah, really like this chapter, and it kind of like sneaks up on you, it feels like. But as it just very nicely builds, checks in with all the apprentices, and then sets up like, hey, all of these guys are all taking a step forward together and yet apart. It's neat.
Uh-huh.
And that's gonna do it. That's our manga for this week, everyone. Tell me, Quinn, what was your favorite? Who was your favorite?
I think I'm going to give my favorite to Akane-banashi because of how unexpected it made me. I will say this. I think character of the week is a much stronger category this week than chapter of the week. I don't know if any chapter was like, oh my god, this blew me away. I think for me it's between either Cipher Academy and this. And you know what? Upon saying that, I'm switching to Cipher Academy. Cipher Academy, I forgot how much it made me laugh. Like, it really like caught me off guard with how silly it was. So I'm going to give it to Cipher Academy. I'm so sorry. Totally. Ninja was like in the middle of writing and has to stop. Like, God fucking damn it.
Yeah. It feels like the 3 like special chapters this time are Cipher Academy and Akane-banashi and Tenmaku Cinema. Tenmaku Cinema as just a chapter, did not like it as much. I didn't feel like it was as strong. It's special because it's the end, and it's a nice ending, but it's not a great chapter. I'm going to split the difference, and I'm going to go with Akane-banashi and make Toshusai my MVP, my character of the week.
Toshusai, interesting.
A lot of my favorite moments from the chapter are for her.
That's fair.
So
I will continue with the Cipher Academy character, but mine is going to be Yogata, who I love that they're like, yeah, she's 5-year-old and destabilized her entire family because of her sense of justice. You're like, yeah, dog, she's been a menace since she's been fucking 5. I'll go along with it. Plus, I love just the moment of Aroha showing up at her table and being like, oh, I guess me and Toshusai had to go because no one else is going to try, but oh well. And it's just like, the like tomato on her fork falls. She's like, God damn it.
And just immediately falls for it, doesn't think about it. Maybe he's lying to me.
The audience, by the way, picked Akane-banashi as the chapter of the week and Taiki from Blue Box as their character of the week. As I said, I think there were a lot of really good character options this week. Rip, Taiki, there was like a whole bunch I was considering throughout this week.
Oh yeah, I considered Fumiko for her very like I like human Chainsaw Man more than demon Chainsaw Man. It was nice. Yeah, guys, that's gonna do it for Weekly Manga Recap. It is the middle of September, which means we've got a couple of weeks to go before we can talk about To Love Ru, which I'm sure will be a fascinating and deep conversation that we have. Until then, we'll see you guys next week for some more manga talkie. Or maybe it'll just be regular manga talkie time by then. Who knows?
Yeah, we might not have talkies all the way there. It might just be manga talk.
But that'll also be here on twitch.tv/RoloT, where we record all the shows live. Our recorded episodes are up on weeklymangarecap.podbean.com, iTunes, Spotify, generally wherever podcasts can be shared is where the podcast will be. Video versions on youtube.com/weeklymangarecap. The video version also has an introductory sequence done by Winston Shitter and Milo Jack Stillitz. Thank you guys for providing that for us. Also, occasionally we get title cards done by Steve Man, whose work you can check out wherever boobs are allowed to be drawn on the internet under Steve Man Art. That's where you can find that stuff. For information related to the podcast, you can check out the Discord, which will be linked wherever this gets posted, and from there, find the Google Doc that contains like all the MVP voting, favorite series voting from when we started doing that about like 6 years ago. I think was when we first started doing it, and like history of the show in terms of like recommendations we've taken, and make suggestions for stuff that you'd like us to cover. Ask questions for an eventual Q&A episode. All that stuff is maintained by Ninja X3i. Thank you, because we would forget to do that otherwise.
Yep.
And lastly, just want to say, if you guys want some bonus content on patreon.com/weekly manga recap, we got a few ideas brewing for our next one. So check that out if you would be so inclined to do so. I think that's everything. So
I think that's
until
it.
next time.
Yeah, thanks everybody. I hope you all have a good one. I don't have like a gag, so I'm just gonna kind of meander.
Just gonna wander around.
Yeah, I'm gonna be a wanderer.
Over here, going over here, going over there. When's the episode gonna end? I